Hi, today I want to talk to you about this grant that the Department of Housing and Urban Development just came out with for public housing authorities, and it's called the Radon Testing and Mitigation Demonstration for Public Housing. This grant, you can request a minimum of $150,000 to a maximum of $600,000 over a period of 3 years. That's the period of performance for public housing authorities. So if you are a public housing authority and you have traditional public housing units in your stock of housing, then you can apply for this grant. This grant is for you to test for and mitigate radon in your development, in your units. So, radon is actually a colorless, odorless gas, colorless, odorless gas that is radioactive decay from radium. So, radium is actually found in the soil and in the rocks. It's just a natural element that's found in the soil and in the rocks, but when it decays, it creates a gas that if it's built up to a if it's built up to a certain level, it becomes toxic and it also cause hazardous effects for humans to inhale. So the Environmental Protection Agency did a predictive study of the entire United States and created a map. And the map is zoned per zoned for all the counties in all the states. And each county is either in zone 1, zone 2, or zone 3. And these zones basically cover the length, the degree of radon that's in your county, in your area. So all the counties that are in zone 1 means that you have 4 or more picocuries of radon per liter of air in your area. So this is an assumptive study because the entire country was not studied to find out how much actual radon is in the soil and in the rocks and the ground. But based on research, they came up with an assumption that based on the area that you are in, you're either in zone 1, zone 2, or zone 3. So, like I said before, if you're in zone 1, then it's assumed that the amount of radon that's in the ground in your area is 4 or more picocuries per liter of air. If you're in zone 2, it's assumed that in your area, in the ground, there is levels of 2 to 4 picocuries of radon per liter of air. And if you're in zone 3, then you have 2 or less picocuries of radon per liter of air. So picocuries the is actually the way by which they measure radon, the amount of radon that's in the air. So HUD and the Environmental Protection Agency says that 4 picocuries or more is the actionable step. So if you're at 4 picocuries of radon per liter of air, they want you to take action to provide some sort of mitigation to assist yourself so that it doesn't cause a problem for the health of the people who inhale it. So, what actually happens is once the earth is disturbed, it can seep through the building of your public housing development if there are cracks in the foundation and build up to such a toxic level that it causes problems. So it actually causes breathing problems. It affects the respiratory system. So if it does build up and causes adverse effects, you can have wheezing, coughing, struggles with breathing. Those are some of the problems. And over time, it can even cause lung cancer, which is actually reported that the United States have 21,000 deaths from uh, lung cancer, which is caused by radon. So it's reported that there are 21,000 deaths that's caused by radon that leads to exposure to radon that leads to lung cancer, especially for children because they have smaller bodies. The exposure for them, it's really more significant because once they're introduced to radon, their body is so small that they have less surface area for this gas to affect. So because they have less surface area, the damage is even more, or it affects them even more. So HUD wants to make sure that the units that you propose to serve in your application are units that children can reside, because they want to make sure that children are not affected. They also want to make sure that adults are not affected um, as well, but they do emphasize units where children do reside. So, also, it's reported that, fun fact, it's reported that 1 in 15 homes in the United States is actually affected by radon. So it's very important to learn about this gas, that it's in the air and it's everywhere, but it's mostly in the ground, and when it's disturbed from the ground and seep into your building, it can build up, especially for ground level units and basement units. It builds up in those units to a toxic level. So mitigation actually involves a fan, an electrical fan, where you can route it in the pipes under your slab or your foundation, so that air is redirected out of the building, or some air is redirected out of the building, so that that toxic level of radon isn't built up in your unit. So it's highly, highly, highly important to get your public housing units tested, and if radon is found at the actionable level, to get it mitigated so that your residents are not adversely affected. It's very important. So you can request up to $600,000 to do this. The grant due date is March the 28th, 2022. So it's right around the corner. It's next month. So please get your applications in to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.